And we are live. Was it the second week, third week? I think it's second week of Lunch and Learns, right? For the new year. That's where we're at. Welcome everybody to the second week of Lunch and Learns for 2025. I'll be hosting today, Jared, and if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. And I'll answer it to the best of my abilities. And if it needs something more, then we can talk about it. Or if it's something I can demonstrate simply, I'll just do that. Before we begin, we got a couple of cool things. We have the Decisions Training channel up on the top right here. So if you want to go ahead and subscribe and like and comment on videos, it helps us know what you guys want us to make so we can make that better. We also have the Decision Solutions Marketplace where you can download pre-built applications to see how some of our experts built things. We also have a DocBot where if you want to leverage AI to determine how to make certain things in decisions, you can go ahead and leverage that thing by typing that URL and going to it, and you can ask it questions. So pretty cool stuff. Alrighty, any questions? Make sure if I got both those chats, I got the Q&A. All right, cool. I got it all. I'm ready. Got a big crowd today too, so thank you guys so much for attending. Today's January 7th. Any comments, any questions? I believe I'm hearing the typing of the keys on the keyboard, the people getting ready to type in a question or click the button to raise their hand to see what question they might ask. Alrighty. Let's see. James Cox asks, is there a way to refer to a field in a data structure by reference? I'm going to allow you to talk. James, could you give us some more detail on what you mean by reference? You mean by just like the column name or the property name?
Yeah, well, the property name, because I got an application where I'm trying to scrape database fields off of a Salesforce database and put them into a smart sheet. But you have to do that by the column names and all that stuff to match them up. And I'm having a heck of a time trying to flatten that data out and put it into a sheet in Smartsheet without being able to tell what the actual field name is versus just the data that's in it without, just manually putting each one in. If I could reference that field name versus the data that's in it, this would work a lot better.
I gotcha. This may help. I'll do a couple of demonstrations. What a question for you? What's Smartsheet? Is that like Excel or is that no relation?
It is. It's basically a project management system that it works kind of like Excel, yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Because we do have a dynamic Excel video on YouTube on our YouTube channel that shows how to use some of that stuff that may help with that. But to answer the specific question you have, we have a couple of things that we can do. We have a what is it? Get not JSON path. Let's see. There is. I know where it's at. If you go to data, if you go to advanced, there's a couple of things where you can get a property names on an object, and then you can get where there was another one. Get property on object. What does this do? This allows you to get the property path of the object. So you may be able to say, I want to get the properties of it. So let me go ahead and let me just create something real quick to test this out. I'm just going to use the account object, say account obj, and then we'll say this is account. And what we can do here is, let me set this as a constant. I'm sure we'll just set that up. Let's pick that one. All right, so now I got that object. What I can do is I can drag that in here, and what this one does is it allows me to get the properties. I'm just going to delete this because I don't need that. This allows me to get the properties on that specific object so I can see all the properties on it. So that's step one. If I just want to get all of the properties of an object, I can pass whatever object in I want into this. This just is the data type object, so you can use this for anything. Now, the
Hmm.
cool thing about this is now what I can do is if I want to get a property on an object, I can say, I'm just going to grab the first property. So I got my target, which I'm just going to grab, which is my account object. And then the string, I'm going to grab that from flow data, and I'm just going to get the first one. And we'll find out what that first one is through the data. So if I can go for this. So over here, we got, all right, so it should be language name. That's the first thing. So if I want to get the property here, and then let's see, the output is property path language name. And then, so now that I got language name, then what I can do is the things inside of decisions, all this is the cool part here, is just a JSON data pair. So I
Hmm.
can do, there we go. There's a data pair section right here where I could say get data pair. Where's the value? There's one. Let's see, data pair to object, get logical data pair. I'm gonna go to advanced, get property on set property on object. What does this one allow me to do? Ah, okay. So you can set the property path, you have the target object, and then the value. And this should change that property there. So it looks like you could do it this way. Let's give this a shot. And that'll show you kind of the other way that I was kind of thinking. So let's say if I want to get this property path on the first one,
I think your mic cut.
that I wanted to use where you can say, go ahead and set this JSON value. Let's get JSON path from value. Maybe not. All right, so let's see. Let's play around with this. Let's see what we can get. So the target will be, so the property path is this. Target object will be, select from flow data, count object. And the value, I'm just going to create another and say this is new language, new lang. And I'll say this is English. And then what I can do is I can set this property, flow data, to the new language. And then let me go ahead and add another one of these so that we can just merely see that property. And I'm going to remove that. And I believe what this will do is now we should see that that language object property is changed. Let's go ahead and save this and let's run this test. And then we should say, there we go, English, boom. So what I'm thinking is you could probably do something where you can get the properties on the object since you're not sure what it is. And then you can go through and loop through those objects and see which ones you need. And only grab those specific pieces depending on the data type you're using. And then you could use the set property on object to set those properties if you need it. And then it would just add those values to it there. Any clarifications or additional questions from that? Am I still audible on the decision side?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
No worries.
Yeah, that I'm going to take some time to digest that and go back and look at it and then construct this in my own environment and see what I can get. But
Mhm.
this might get me started because what I need to do is
Mhm.
I need to match a a single row that's coming in from Salesforce,
Mhm.
all the case data. And then I
Okay.
need to map that to a row in Smartsheet, but I need to the column names, I need to match it up with the correct column name, which is an ID that I have to match it to. So I have to
Mhm.
flatten that data out and either update or
Mm.
insert a row into that. And the
Mhm.
column names, of course, aren't going to match. They're just they're whatever they are in each environment.
Mhm. what you could do there to make it easier, you can also get just the JSON. See, that's the thing I
Yeah,
was
I've
looking
got the
for.
JSON data. I've got
Yeah.
it in JSON coming out of both environment. So
Okay.
I do have that already.
Okay, good, good. Because then that makes it easier where then you can loop through each data pair and just say, all right, here's the the name, and then here's the value associated with it because you have them there. And there's other steps too that you could say um, get value from JSON name, get value from JSON by name, right? And then you can just grab the
Okay.
text and get it from there.
All right.
So
Yeah, I need to play with that. I need to get better, much better at working with JSON pairs.
yeah,
I admit
it is a
I'm
little
not very
tricky.
good at that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a little tricky, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's like, oh, it's pretty cool. I think
Yeah,
we also
yeah.
have a YouTube video on that as well.
Yeah,
I
let me check
think. Let
that
me
out.
send that to you as well because I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
we have that, which is this one. And I think it's called like dealing with JSON data pairs is what it's called. I'm gonna put it in the as a response to your question. Yeah, step by step, get JSON data pairs for JSON object properties. Sounds like this one's your wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Let
let
me
me
go
take a look at
ahead.
that.
I'll send that to you. It's a type and answer. Boom, I sent it there. And also, I'm also sending it in the chat for everyone if you want to watch that video because you're in that circumstance as well.
I'll check that out. See if I can
Awesome.
do something.
Alrighty, Grant Long asks, what does having multiple end steps do for you? Why would you want to do that? Is that something used more for subflows? I've heard that being done a couple of times, was just curious on what kind of use cases would require that. I've never seen that done in action before, and I was just having a hard time wrapping my head around it. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, let me pull up. We have a great example. One of our um, project builds that we build in data cleanup in our developer course. Some students actually elect to do this. And in fact, one of our examples where we build this, we actually utilize this design paradigm. So let me just get that flow opened up off screen, and then I will drag over my screen. So you won't see nothing for just a few moments. And yep, I think I'm gonna go in here. And boom, exactly. All right, cool. I'm gonna drag this over the screen here. So this is a picture of a flow that's inside the run flows for list step. That's the step that will say, okay, I'll take a list of however n number of items. Let's say, for example, 10, and I'm gonna run a flow for each record in that 10 item list. So 10 flows are going to be running one for each item in that list. In the example I gave 10. So to answer your question specifically, Graham, what we do here is sometimes there are subflows where we say, hey, we want to path this to somewhere else. And so in this flow, we have a flow data comparison. And let's say we're comparing a record that we get from a file and we want to see if it's in our database. So what we'll do here is we'll say, hey, let's go ahead and see, let's get this ID here. Hey, it looks like we fetched some data from the database and the database returned a null result. So we're going to go ahead and say that's a no record. And then we don't need to run this other part of the process equaling the address for doing that stuff because we have no record. And so that's why we just added another end step because that terminates the business kind of process model that we have for it. And so that's why when you now go outside of it, you'll see that when I call that subflow, I now have two paths. I have a no record path and I have a done path. And what this does is it makes it easier for us because now if we want to route that process to somewhere else due to that condition, we now can. And so that's all adding multiple end steps does is if I go ahead and let's just create one real quick, run flow. And we're going to go ahead, we'll save that. We're going to pick and create. We'll say this is multiple end step flows. It's kind of like, have you ever seen the movie Vantage Point? It's like that movie where it's like you watch the same scene 7 times before the movie actually progresses. That's kind of like what the end step is. And that's like an old movie. I think it came out in 08, but it was an okay movie if you want to watch that this weekend. It's not bad, but it wasn't great. You'll be like, okay, you can only watch it once because after that you can't watch multiple times. But anyway, I digress. So multiple end steps. So here, if I want to have a flow that has multiple end steps, you can grab the end step here and I just have to give it a different name. So this could be done 2 or 3 or however. Then I can copy this, and then I could say this is done 3, and then I can copy this and say this is done 4, right? And let's say I have lots of processes that I want to know. Like let's say I use a string match step, right? And then I have let's say path 1, path 1, path 2, path 3, path 4, right? So I have these 4 paths, and let's say I want something to go to each of these paths, depending on some data evaluation that I may have. And then let's say if I have an error path, I'm going to add another end step. And I'll call this, error over here, and then I'll add the no matches path there. And let's say I'm trying to evaluate some piece of text. I'm going to say, make it a constant. We'll just say path 1. So we know it's always going to exit path 1. But let's say I had a process that sent in lots of data. Now what I can do here is notice that my end step here has multiple end step paths that I then can route to different steps depending on my use case of what I would want it to do. So that's kind of the help of multiple end steps. A frequent use case that our professional services team utilizes is in the event of errors. So it's always good practice whenever you design a flow to have a situation where you account for what if this process errors out, right? And so what you will see a lot of the times is, let me just create another flow, is you will have let's see, and this is example good practice subflow, right? Is that I'll have a process that runs, and then let's say if it runs on the good condition, we're going to go to the done step, and we're all good there. But let's say I have an error that could happen, right? Because you always have to account for errors in your process. That's just good software development practice. And so now what we can do here is on each, let's say this is a main process. I can set up the outcomes to say, hey, I want to make sure that we add an outcome for exception, and I attach this here to the error path. Or let's say, I don't want it to be the exception to be caught on a specific step, but just in general, I just want to catch exceptions, right? And the exceptions that happens on this flow, go ahead and catch that exception and then run that out in the error path, and then just output all of the exception full stack trace message, the stack, and the type name, right? And so that's what you'll kind of see in our professional services flows is you'll have a flow, someone like this, right? Imagine this actually did something intelligent. It doesn't do anything literally. But if it did, and let's say it errored out, now if I go to this part, you'll see I have a flow that has a done path and an error path. So then it will always remind you as a developer, okay, I need to account for this error path. So it's just a nice kind of practice to get into when you utilize subflows. It makes things easier, neater, and also it makes it a lot easier to troubleshoot because you can see, oh, hey, that went down the error path, instead of just saying, oh, this subflow is red. Now I got to find out what steps red, then look at the details. When you can just see, hey, there's the exception path, it went out, and then look at the logs from then on out. So that's how we use it. Alexander Stewart asks, can I set an email scraper to take data from an email and do something with it? You absolutely can. We actually do this in 2 departments in decisions. Let's see. A great, just to make your life easier so you don't have to build this. Let's see. Give me a moment. I'm just gonna go ahead and find that. I'm gonna find that. Show you the flow off screen. As I find it, I'll tell you the background. So in the training department and the support team, you'll notice that how people submit tickets for training or for the support team is you just email the perspective email accounts. For training, you email training@decisions.com. That makes a ticket for us with the contents that you sent in, and then we can work that ticket. Same thing with the support team. You email support@decisions.com, and then that creates a ticket. That will scrape the email, read who sent it, read all that stuff, and then it will create a ticket that then our support team work. So it's a very helpful tool for that endeavor. Now, there is, just to kind of save time, there is, I think, where I always forget where this went. Does anyone know where the My App Store went? I think it's My App Store. Where'd it go? My apps. There is an app. If you go to, let me just go to solutionsmarketplace.com. Let's see, let's do, what is it? Decisions, solutions. I think it's like decisions, solutions, marketplace. Let me find that. It's super helpful. Basically, what I'm trying to show you is that we have a product. Let me just scan the QR code on my phone so I can see what that is. It is marketplace.decisions.com. I knew it was. All right, so we're going to go to marketplace.decisions.com. And what you'll see here is we actually have a project Where is it? We have a couple projects. There's a ticketing project somewhere. Yeah, ticketing system. And what that is essentially that it's what do you call it? An email scraper. And just to show you what that flow looks like, because let's say that ticketing app has a lot of extra stuff that you're like, I don't need it. I just need this logic. So what I'm going to show you here is I'm going to show you that's the kind of email job monitor here that we have running. And so you can see the steps that happen. Ticket system email. I think it's in this one over here. Yep. Perfect. Okay, cool. I'm going to drag this over so now you can see it. So inside this flow, this is the ticketing system email job logic flow. If you downloaded the ticketing app, it's just this flow if you want to see this logic. And essentially what this does is it gets the headers of the email. And then what that does is if it gets data and returns information, then what you can do is you can read that email and you get access to, just so you can see the data types of this, did the data explorer. You get access to, let's see, headers. Let's see, what's the output of this step? Inputs mark as, oh, that's just the mark as read. Silly me. Let's go to this one. I think it's the output. You get a message. And with that, it's called current email. But what that does, let's expand this. You have access to the body in HTML, the body in text. If you want the message in text or HTML, if you need the tags, you can get access to any attachments. And then what you can do is, let's see, you can get through the email header. You can get access to who the email address was to. You can display the sender. If it's flagged for recent is seen, if it's signed or encrypted, the subject, you get all that information and then you get access to the body text. And so it allows you to get access to that. How does it scrape my inbox? Yeah, what it does is it actually to put in the how it does it. I'm not sure the code in the background on what it does. I know in the settings, what you have to do is you have to give it the access, the certain port, the email monitoring password, and then the server connection. And it actually talks to your SMTP server and it logs in with whatever credentials you've given it. And so that's how it's able to get those emails, is because just like when you log into Outlook or was it Thunderbird Mail? I almost said Thundermail. I think it's Thunderbird Mail or whatever email client you use. It does the same thing and just logs in as that account, reads the email, whether it's IMAP or POP, and then gets that data and then puts it in the flow, and then you can do whatever you want with it. But that's kind of from a technical way it does it. I'm not sure from the coding perspective on how it does it, but I believe it's probably the same thing. It just opens up a server connection with the SMTP user account password, and then just downloads the email from there, depending on which protocol you're using, whether IMAP or POP. So, but yeah, but that's what it does. It's super helpful. And I think there's other things in the app marketplace. Like I think there's also like an email campaign, some other things that may be better than just downloading the whole ticketing project app. How do I add this as an accelerator? Yeah, a good question. How do you add this as an accelerator? Perfect. Yeah, so all you have to do is, let's see, let me go to my local because I think I could download this and show you. So if I go to my local and let's see, where is the apps, my apps? I forgot. Does anyone remember on the decision side?
Go to
We've moved it.
projects, I think, and
Is it
then
projects?
it should be
That's
in.
one. Upper right hand corner.
Oh yeah, thanks. You rock. Thank you so much. So yeah, there's the App Store. And then what I can do is you can go all the way down. Let's find ticketing system right here. So if you're in version 9, go to Projects, App Store, and then to get the details of the ticketing system, and then you can click Install, and it installs all those flows that I just showed you from our internal server. And then you have the open configuration where you can actually configure it. If you want to know like how do I set this up to like actually talk to my SMTP email, right? Because it's a good project. It's a good sized project. We actually have a documentation on our website. I think let's see, the accelerators, right? I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell, but right now
Should
you
be
can't
under
tell.
projects, Jared, at the top.
Oh, and projects, look at that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. So on our doc site, if you switch to projects, and then you click accelerators, you'll have access to all of the accelerators in document form, and you can go to the ticketing system. And as you can see here, there's been an update to this, and it kind of walks you through the specific designer elements, what it does, right? Here's the kind of setting up the email scraping ability right here that you can configure for it. So it's a super, can't talk, a very helpful resource. So let me add this to your question. Type the answer here. I'll send this there. And then I'll also send it in the chat if anyone else is interested or in the same situation that Alexander is in. You can go ahead and find these systems here. And then also I'll send you the Decisions Marketplace app right here, so you get access to that. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, fun things that you can do there to help you get to your intended design. All right, any other questions? And thanks, Decisions team, for the help for navigating the stuff. I was like, I knew we had it somewhere. All right, Jeremy, Peter, any questions?
Jared, I got one more.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Um, I know this is possible, I just haven't looked into it yet, but I'm interested in creating an email merge, like if just to merge into the body of the email as I'm constructing it. And before it's sent out, like have like merge fields in the body of the text that I can, map to. How's that best done in Decisions?
How's it best done in Decisions?
Yeah, like you've got a body, and you like say you want dear last name, and you just want to pull in whatever the flow's last name is and put it in that body and send it out. I guess I could just construct it in a text and then put that text in the message in the email body.
There's a couple ways you can do it. So I'll kind of
That's
show you.
probably the best way. Yeah.
Yeah, let me show you, because it's a pretty fun tool. There is actually if you go to all, can you not do this anymore? There's no way. Oh, there we go. Phew. I was like, there's a way. What you can do is you can just the simpler way. Let me just create a flow is like
Great text.
messing around with text, right? The basic way is like, let's say I go to a send email step, right? Send email. And what I want to do is I just want to, I have a body message that I want to merge. I can just use merge HTML or merge text, right? That's the basic way. That's just an input mapping. But here's the thing. At the training team, we have some updates that we have to send to all students. And it would be very hard if we had to kind of go ahead and change the inputs or the message on the send email step every time. So what we do instead of messing with the input of the merge plain text is you can actually create your own create text merge, and we'll say this is my training email message to all students. Right? Long name, probably should shorten it, but this is just for demonstration. And what this does is actually creates for you a text merge where you can then say, okay, I know the input of this data is always going to be like for example, in our situation, it's always like someone's training URL, for like updates or maintenance on it. So I'll just say, okay, I'll have a thing of training URL, and I could say, hello, student, right? And I could probably even make that another variable where I could say this is student name, right? And then instead of hello student, now I can just say hello student name, put that in there. And then I can say your training URL, comma, training URL, will be going ... yeah, and whatever else that needs to be. Then I can save this, and then the power of what this does is I can go back into my messing around with text flow, and then whenever I need to send this message out, there is a step. I think it's called like pick or create text merge. Yeah, right there. And then I could just say, okay, I want this merge type to be either HTML, plain, a PDF, or a document, whatever I need for the given circumstance. Then I can pick or create the merge, pick the merge that I just created, and then now I can supply the information dynamically for student name and URL. And then all I need to do is just map that data, that result, into the body there, and then it will display in my
Yep.
email.
That's
So
exactly what I want to do.
perfect.
So to
Mhm.
create that text, that object, go back to your main page. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's, where did you do that? Add, and then.
Yep. And then create text.
Okay, I could not figure that out. I saw that when I did it in the logic, like the step that creates it,
Mm-hmm.
created that text object, but I couldn't figure out how to manually create it like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
And,
All right.
and there was an older version where we removed it and then we brought it back. So I know it's in version 8 where that happened. I think it's like 8.14. It was 8.13 was removed and then brought back like 8.15 or something like that. Because it's
Yeah.
just such a useful tool to be able to templatize what I'm going to send out, and then I can just
Sure.
change it in one place and then
Yeah.
send it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Mhm. Alrighty. Any other questions? Grant asked, when having a defined query, how do you give it input variables? I asked this because when I used to use the run SQL step, I would merge plain text and then add my variables. When I define my query, is there a way to have input variables? I can't talk. Input variables there. So when I use this step, I can map the variables. Yes, you definitely can. Let me show you. There's a great document over this. Let me grab you that document and send it to you because it's different depending on what your database is. I think in SQL, it's an @ sign. In Postgres, it's like the exclamation point or the bang. That's so those are different. So it depends on the database. But there's a document that's like dynamic queries. Let's see, query add query parameterized. Parameterized. Let's see. Where is it? I know it's here. Adding a query to a database. Decisions team. Do you guys remember that is? Like I remember seeing it. I know I've seen this several times. Generating
You do it
parameters.
when in your integrations, when you set your database up, you can add query
Yeah, I
in
remember
that
that part.
integrations part. You can't do it in the edit query, but when you're adding a query to an actual database link,
Yeah,
you can set it up
yeah.
there, and it'll allow
Well,
you to parameterize.
well, like, do you remember we have I thought we had a document that like
Yeah, I don't know what the
that
document is.
showed like different databases. You have to use different ones, and that's the one I
Oh yeah,
wanted to
there is
I think
show.
it's the @ symbol if you're going to use SQL right now.
It is the @ symbol.
It is the @ symbol. I just wanted to find that other resource. It was so helpful. Let's see, one more second. I just gotta find this. It's such a, it just transforms everything. Let's see, advanced creating connection, integrating database integrations overview. All right. Well, if someone on the decision side can find it, let me know because it's just super helpful. Because I don't know what your database is, Grant. So that's why I wanted to give you all of the different parameters. You could look it up or chat GPT it, but it's just very helpful. Let's see. I think we got something. You're using SQL Server. Okay. So then I'll just show the SQL Server side then of it. So, wow. Am I crazy? I'm not crazy. All right, well, I'm gonna stop wasting time. Let me show you how it works. So what you could do is, let's say there's a specific query. Actually, I think I could. I think already have a. Where's my? Oh yeah, that's what I want. So let me go to, we actually use this in the training exercises. So what you would do is, let me go to the training exercise to kind of showcase this, and then I'll build one for you so you can see how it works. Is if I go to data structures, I think it's in here. We have this database query definition, and I'm just going to edit it for you so you can see. So what we do here is we just say, hey, we need to check someone's rule condition, and what we do is we say, hey, at rule ID. And so, and you'll see over here it says, hey, this parameter is at rule ID. And then in the flow, when I call this step, it will be rule ID. And obviously, if I run it but don't put any like constant data in it, then it won't work. Now you could edit this and say the default value is something so that when you run it, it will return data for testing. But that's how you do it. You'd select your specific query and then just add an @ symbol. So let's kind of build one together so you can see how that works. So I'm going to go to dynamic data name, move my data structures. Let's say I want to create a data type and integration. I go to database integrations, and then I click this add query button right here. You select the connection you want. I'm going to do the local connection, but you can easily do this on your external connection if you have to pull that in. And then what you can do is I'm going to call this query get account by email queue. Oh, I forgot. You can't have spaces in it. It's very particular. Can't have spaces. Can't account by email queue. And then we write our statement. Select asterisk from entity underscore account where email underscore address equals to at email. Boom. And then you can see there, I have my variable. And if I run it, right, I get no data. And that's what you can see there. So that's me creating that specific query right here. If I click save, that's going to save my query, and then I can then utilize it in a flow. So let's go ahead and let's utilize it in a flow. So I'm going to go ahead and go to flows. I'm going to go to my test flow. After I go to my test flow, I got a lot of junk on this one. Let's not use this one. I'm going to say, we'll call this new test query flow right here. And then if I go to, I think it's in integration and database, and then notice that I have the local connection here, and I have my run query get account by email. And I drag this over, and you will see that I have an input called email. And so let's go ahead and let's run this. You can see how this works. So I'm going to grab just the limit of 1. And then for the email that I want to grab, I want to grab the email that I'm logged in as. So I'm just going to set this as a constant admin@decisions.com. And when I do this, I can go ahead and debug, and then boom, it executes. And then look at the output, boom, it outputs that email in all of its entirety. So to kind of quickly summarize, essentially all you have to do is go ahead and create the query with data types and integrations, database integrations and query. In your query, if you're utilizing SQL Server, add the @ sign. If it's utilizing Snowflake or anything else, then you can go ahead and utilize that bang and stuff. Gotcha. That's exactly what I wanted. What is the limit input for? Yeah, absolutely. So what the limit input is for is you can have a query that can return data from a lot of different tables, excuse me, you can return a lot of data in a given table. So for example, if I ran a query for the entire folder, folder, data table, and decisions, that's like 7,000 records. And let's say I don't want to pull 7,000 records. Let's say I want to limit it to let's see, new test query. Let's say I want to limit the results of it to only be like the first 100 folders. So that's what the limit count does. It says, hey, instead of getting all of the data, only get 100 of those records based on the query. It's very similar to like the limit clause in SQL, where it's I say select asterisks from database table, right? And then I say limit 15 or something. That's exactly what that is. It's basically just decisions version of adding a limit clause up to that query when it hits the table. So that's just the input parameter for that. All right, now I want to find this thing, add parameterized query, because there we go. Thank you. It's in version 8. This is exactly what I was looking for. So I'm going to send you this document, Grant. I'm going to put it in the chat for everyone. If you ever use other different types of database tables, these are the variable parameters for it. I know also that Snowflake's not here, but some customers use Snowflake, and I think that one's the exclamation point. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what it is. But this is just super helpful because it shows you, hey, these are the parameters that you may need to utilize depending on the database you use. So, but yeah, that's what I knew. I wasn't crazy. I was like, it's here. It's somewhere. Alrighty. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, we'll get about 30 more seconds. And then we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. All right, that will wrap up our lunch and learn for today. Thank you guys so much for attending and all of the great comments and questions that we had. We're gonna work on getting this video mixed, and then we'll upload it to our YouTube channel so that you can see all of the stuff that we discussed and refer to it at your own leisure. Tomorrow, Robert Grauer will be hosting tomorrow's lunch and learn, so please join up there and be prepared to ask questions. And then I'll round up the end of the week on Thursday, so you get to see me again. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.